The playoff committee got it wrong. And it's Big 12 basketball season. Well, let's hit it all in a bonus edition of Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday night, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. My friends at ESPN Central Texas have me on once a week, and I decided if I film it, I can just show it to you guys and give you a complete whip around from all that happened in the Big 12 over the course of the weekend, including all of the bad things. Let's get into it.
Now back to the Press Box on ESPN Central Texas.
And welcome back to the Press Box here on this Tuesday. Joining us now, as promised, from Locked On Big 12, it is the one and only Drake Toll. And Drake, congratulations in order as well.
Yeah, thanks, Ward. Excited to join Westwood 1, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. starting December 29th on their national network. And so you'll be able to hear it from Milwaukee to Dallas to New York and surely somewhere down in Waco. But congrats is more in order to you. I hear that there's a new AD at Baylor who has the secret to the Magnolia Cupcakes recipe.
Hey, how about that? Always want that secret recipe, right?
Yep, no doubt. No doubt. Excited to be on this week.
Appreciate it, Drake. All right, for the Big 12, Texas Tech does get into the college football playoff with the 4 seed. They get the bye, which, boy, worries me. I don't like byes. But for the Big 12, several teams in bowls coming up, and 3 or 4 teams have decided that they don't want to participate in a bowl game in the postseason. Let's start with the bowl games that are going to happen. And who came out with probably the best bowl, not only matchup, but fit for them as well out of the Big 12?
I think, we're talking just the first bowl for Texas Tech. That's the biggest one that you get, right? College ball playoff and an opportunity on a neutral site in the Orange Bowl to go possibly to the college ball playoff semifinal. I'm with you. I think, Ward, yourself as an old ball coach, a lot of old ball coaches would agree that bye week may not be the most helpful given the current format. Tech won't play a game between December 6th and now January 1. That's a really tough thing to do when the team ahead of you got 10 days rest, which is plenty of rest in college football, and got to play another warm-up game against James Madison. I'd rather play a home game at 6 o'clock at night with my fans, my crowd behind me, beat up on James Madison, and then go play again in 10 days. Tech doesn't have that liberty. Last season, the teams that got byes were all really fighting uphill battles in their matchups, and they lost. Those teams couldn't find a way because Texas against Arizona State or Ohio State jumping in there had opportunities to rally their troops and find ways to plug holes. Notre Dame beating Indiana, then going on to beat Georgia. They were all fresh. They were ready to go. I wish Texas Tech got that liberty. They don't. But as for these Big 12 bowl games, I think TCU is the most excited team right now, given they weren't expecting to go to the Alamo Bowl. And everything that I've been told is that Houston should have filled that spot for TCU. They were the higher-ranked Big 12 team. But ultimately, Alamo Bowl representatives decided that Houston didn't travel well enough, and they wanted to go with TCU instead. So the Horned Frogs get the nod. Houston goes to NRG. They'll play in the Texas Bowl against LSU on now Saturday, December 27th. And that's the same day BYU plays Georgia Tech. I think if 2 teams are disappointed, Houston is disappointed to play in the Texas Bowl, and BYU is not disappointed playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They are disappointed with playing Georgia Tech. Reason being, and now the Yellow Jackets are very good at football. I think Haynes King is a great quarterback, and that staff is top-notch. But the Cougars wanted a shot at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame had the offer to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They just turned it down. So for BYU, there's a little bit of scorn. You're wondering, okay, why didn't we get the chance to go toe-to-toe with a team that believes they're so much better than everybody else, that believes they should have gone to the playoff? We believe those same things, that we should have gone to the playoff. Let's prove it against Notre Dame. And then Notre Dame was too cowardly and backed out. I think those are the biggest storylines you look at going into bowl season.
Switching focus to the college football playoffs. Drake, how much of a travesty was it that BYU was left out of the college football playoffs?
Yeah, it's funny. You can ask Las Vegas. Vegas would tell you that BYU would be a 14-point underdog against Notre Dame and 17-point underdog against Alabama or Miami. But we don't play the games in Vegas. We don't play the games on these betting sites. We play them in real life, and it's so tough for me to wrap my head around. Now, if you played it and BYU got beat by 10 by Miami, I'd say, yeah, whatever. Miami's the better team. Great. We'll move on. But you didn't even get the chance to play it. So then you have to look at the metrics to decide who the better team is. BYU had a better strength of schedule, a better strength of record, a better overall record than Notre Dame and Miami, yet still got left out of the college football playoff. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you've told me those are the metrics that matter, those are the standards that matter, you've got to be better in strength of schedule, better in strength of record, have more wins. BYU did all that. Their only problem was they didn't have the brand of a Miami. They didn't have the brand of a Notre Dame. They didn't have a brand of an Alabama. The committee didn't want to consider BYU because they said, okay, we just don't care about who the committee considers to be little brother. And what's even wilder about this, last season, SMU finished the regular season 11-1, same as BYU did this year. The Mustangs were ranked 8th in the country, lost their conference championship game, and only dropped to 10th. So I just don't get how BYU wins. You can say, oh, well, just win your games. There is a real chance, and Ward, you can attest to this. You've watched a lot of good defenses in your time in college football. There's a real chance Texas Tech is the best team in the country, the best defense in the country. I would not be surprised if they're a top 3 team in America. BYU could all good and well be the 5th best, 6th best, 7th best team in the country. They just lost to a team that might be the best team in America. And you say, well, I don't know. If BYU's 7th and Texas Tech is 2nd, it'd be a closer game. I'll point you back to the national championship in 2021 where Alabama beat Ohio State 42-13. And we decided that was number 1 versus number 2. There are big gaps between elite teams. I think BYU at least deserved a shot here, and they were kept out for brand bias. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go, even in the wintertime, to get my sports rocks off. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, suddenly everything feels different, and that's what makes live betting on FanDuel so exciting. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or momentum flips after a turnover. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. So, if you want to be right in the middle of the action all season long, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Go to FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com and do it today.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12 with us here in the press box on ESPN Central Texas. And TCU, you mentioned them in the Alamo Bowl down in San Antonio taking on USC, and Sonny Dykes will be without his offensive coordinator and going back to calling plays. Do you think that that's going to work out well for the Horned Frogs? He's certainly capable, isn't he?
Yeah, TCU fans have told me that war is over, apparently. That's the line that I've been given now that a guy with the last name Briles is no longer a coordinator in Fort Worth. When the hire was made, it kind of felt like TCU was going in a direction that would spite everybody else in the Big 12. It would just make everybody turn their head and say, what? The last name Briles wearing purple? And once that wears off, the guy has to still be your offensive coordinator and call your plays. In their last 5 games, they scored 23 against a West Virginia team that struggled. They scored 17 against Iowa State, 13 against BYU, 17 against Houston, and then luckily 45 against Cincinnati. But their point totals for their last 5 games were bad offensively. Their offense struggled mightily, even with Josh Hoover at quarterback. I think TCU fans are excited to see Briles out of the fold here, and I'm not sure that Horned Frog Nation's too upset. I still like their chances against USC.
Out of all the Big 12 teams in the bowl games, which one do you think is going to be the best for the Big 12? Which game do you think is going to be the best representation and maybe the best matchup for some of these Big 12 teams?
Yeah, I would say best matchup. I'm very intrigued to see what we get between SMU and Arizona. I think that one could end up being pretty fun, could be higher scoring. Noah Fafita is such a good quarterback. He'll throw the ball around the yard against SMU. I am very interested in that USC TCU game, as we mentioned, in the top 25 matchup, I should say. Georgia Tech and BYU are good, but none of these really scream Big 12 dominance like Utah against Nebraska. Utah is a 15.5 point favorite right now. And you've got a chance to go face off against Matt Rule, a former Big 12 coach, and just absolutely run Nebraska out of the stadium in Las Vegas, where a whole big portion of the fans will be Utah fans. This is the same Nebraska team that finished their season losing to Iowa 40-16 and Penn State 37-10. Remember, Penn State didn't have a coach. Utah, on the other hand, was rolling through teams. Baylor got a good look at that 3 weeks ago, winning games in weird ways, too. They were down by 10 against Kansas State with 2.5 minutes to go, still found a way to win that game 51-47. They've got a knack for winning. They had a knack in the middle of the year for blowing teams out. I think it's very strong for the Big 12 if Utah goes out and puts the hurt on Nebraska and proves that this conference really isn't that far behind the Big 10, as you might hear on the national networks.
Two Big 12 teams that were bowl eligible did opt out of the bowl games and the opportunity to play in postseason. And some of the teams that were eligible that kind of were on the outside looking in until Notre Dame and other teams decided they didn't want to play, also decided they didn't want to go ahead and have the extra practices. What do you think about opting out of a bowl game for these Big 12 teams?
I think I understand more so when Kansas or Baylor or UCF do it. Reason being, 6 days ago, you told your players, go home. Go. You Aunt May, when she makes that apple pie, you go home and eat it. Like we're out of football mode. Your staff is on the road recruiting the transfer portal, recruiting high school kids, signing a class. So to pick up the phone and say, yeah, we want you to play a football game in 3 weeks, that's really hard to do. And the logistics of it are not easy. So I don't fault Baylor as much. Now, if I'm a football coach, I want those 15 practices. I want to prove something to the world, but I also get, at the same time, you already told the kids go home. You already put the impression in their mind for 6 days the season is done. On the flip side, Kansas State, you got a bowl game. Iowa State, you got a bowl. You earned a bowl game. Your players, your left guard, who's a senior who played his last game, was trying to win to go to a bowl game, to have 15 more practices, to have 4 more weeks with his team. And you just told him, no, we're done. We're hanging it up. He said, well, the coach left. There's an interim coach there. Everybody since the beginning of time, coaches have left before bowl games. You fill it with an interim slot and you give it your best. It's an opportunity for the Big 12 to not just compete, but get millions of dollars from these bowl deals. And so I'll flip the question to you, Ward, as someone who coached football. How much more preparation, how much more practiced, how much better would your team be if you got 15 extra practices than everybody else in college football?
It's unmeasurable. I mean, you take every practice that you can possibly get, and not only do you find out about what you have right now, you can use those 15 practices to know what's coming back for you, because you're not just straight preparing for a bowl game. You're also giving these young guys that extra time in your system.
Today's show is brought to you by Rugiet. Oh, and am I excited to tell you how you can get Rugiet ready? Well, let's talk about something and that men don't usually bring up, but probably should. Stress from work and money and life doesn't just, help at night or in the bedroom. And it's time for you to take back control. This is a next generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body. You feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rugiet Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rugiet Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average. You stay present and confident. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready with Rugiet.
Now, Drake, as we're kind of looking at the playoff path for Texas Tech, do you like the path that Tech is going to have to take to potentially make it to the national championship? Does anything about that path, does that kind of jump out to you?
I really don't mind it. And at some point, you've got to play the best team in front of you. Like there's no, I want to choose my own path and I hope it's easy. I guess I don't think coaches are thinking that way. I don't think Joey McGuire is thinking that way. He wants to beat the best. He is fine playing whoever. I love the Oregon matchup. I think Oregon was stifled in their loss this season against Indiana because Oregon couldn't put up with an elite defense. Tech will be able to get pressure on the quarterback. Tech will be able to wreak havoc on Oregon's run game. And that's what Texas Tech has done all season long. And there's an opportunity to get James Madison, certainly, but I don't think it's going to happen. I foresee, as most would, that Oregon takes care of business in a night game at Autzen Stadium. And ultimately, it's the Ducks who Texas Tech will square off against. And from there, you're likely looking at Indiana. Maybe you're playing Oklahoma or Alabama, but I've seen enough of Tech's defense this year. It is the Butkus Award winner was Jacob Rodriguez. I have been told, I have seen it, I've seen the award winners, that the best linebacker in college football, he would be the best linebacker in the SEC, is Jacob Rodriguez. David Bailey, Romello Height on the D-line. They would be the best two defensive linemen in the SEC. When you're telling me I've got an SEC caliber defense, I can work with that. Ben Johnson at linebacker is elite. I can work with that. I have a lot of confidence in Texas Tech against Oregon because of their defense. I have a lot of confidence against Indiana because of their defense. And from there, it'll be a dang good game if Tech gets a Georgia, an Ohio State, an A&M in the national championship. But I foresee Texas Tech making a strong run.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, with us here in the press box on this Taco Tuesday. And quickly, before I let you go, I wanted to talk about basketball in the Big 12 as things slowly getting kicked off in the arenas. And how competitive is the Big 12 in your mind right now? I know that we're just getting a small sample size before the Christmas break, but how competitive do you believe this conference is going to be? And is there anybody in this conference right now in Drake Toll's mind that stands out in the Big 12?
It is somehow more competitive than I thought it would be, which is a really weird thing to say because I knew it would be competitive. But even teams like Arizona State that I thought would middle and have a really hard time winning basketball games have won games this year that I didn't. They beat Texas earlier this year. They beat Oklahoma by 16 in their last game. And I thought that Arizona State would finish 14th, 15th, 16th in the Big 12 Conference. BYU has been a stalwart, magnificent to watch with the best freshman in all of college basketball. Texas Tech just beat undefeated LSU 82-58. Kansas beat 8-1 Missouri 80-60, and Kansas has still been missing Darren Peterson, their best player. UCF has surprised me at 8-1. Coach Dawkins has done a great job pulling upsets there as well. Arizona is, in my opinion, the best team in the country, and if they're not, I think Iowa State might be the best team in the country. And if I haven't even gotten somehow to Houston yet, who has the best defense in America. Ward, I knew it'd be good. I knew it would be good. But this is just something that I'm not sure anybody really expected, and that's the dominance at the top of college basketball. And I haven't even mentioned Baylor yet, who has surprised me as much better than I thought they would be. And look, reason being, they've had the big wins. They've had a couple big wins that were surprising to me, and they've lost a couple games where I thought, oh no, is Baylor going to be down this year? Is it really doom and gloom? Like the Memphis 78-71, that's not a very good Memphis team that you lost to. But at the same time, I can give you a mulligan as you still try to piece things and put things together. I like the Baylor team still. I think Carr is maybe the most surprising player in the conference. Cam Carr is going to be a menace come Big 12 play. This is a great league. It's an honor again to cover it, and I think they're proving once again the Big 12 is king in college basketball.
One more real quick on Baylor basketball before we move on.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going to have no problem scoring. They have 4 or 5 guys, including Yosafondu and Carr, who can put up 20 a game. It looks like it's going to be the defense again this year is going to be the key.
Yeah, I mean, 96 points allowed to St. John's. That's the game when I think defense fell apart. It's the St. John's game for sure. And honestly, Baylor tried to tell you with, I think it was Tarleton State and like UTRGV there early. Both those teams scored above 80, I think like 83, 82, 83. They tried to tell you, hey, the defense, we still need to cinch up. Scott said it after one of those games. We can't allow 80-plus points in these kind of games. But as long as you're scoring, if it's 40 minutes of hell, run and gun, if you're scoring 100 and your opponent's scoring 80, I'm okay with that. The problem is the Big 12's so good defensively. Baylor's really got to lock that up and at least be in the middle of the pack on defense to compete for a conference championship. No doubt. It has to come from the defensive improvement for Baylor to prove that it could be a Big 12 title contender.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12 with us here in the press box talking Big 12. Hey, appreciate the time, Drake, as always. Again, congratulations on the Westwood One Morning Show. We appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Always fun, Ward. Just send me your address. I'm going to send you a hot tub for Christmas.
Hey, all right. I'll take it. There he goes. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12.
Fun stuff. Always. Dose Grande.